Madam Clerk, please prompt the vote. Call the roll.
It's a little early.
I've jumped over to roll stuff.
Haven't gotten to a vote yet.
Yeah, please call the roll.
Okay. Commissioners Cavell? Erickson Galt? Here. Gershenson is absent with notice. Gingell? Here. Hoffman?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Joliet?
Here.
Long?
Here.
Lubes?
Here.
Markham?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Powell?
Here.
Rahman?
Present.
Smith Charles?
Present.
Spiz?
Present.
Taylor?
Here.
Whitebird?
Here.
Woodward?
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The invocation for this evening's meeting will be led by the Honorable Gwen Markham, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start my invocation with a picture. Now, I don't know if you recognize either of these men. Some of you may know who both of them are. The one on the left is the first county executive from Oakland County, Daniel T. Murphy. He was my dad. The man on the right is the 37th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter. And you'll notice they're shaking hands. And my dad was a Republican, and Jimmy Carter was a Democrat. And I've always really liked this picture because it says to me that we're supposed to work together. Doesn't matter what your party is. We're all facing a very contentious election in the next couple of weeks. And I just want us all to remember, in the spirit of bipartisanship, that's what we're supposed to be doing. So, you probably know that Jimmy Carter turned 100 on October 1st, which I think is just amazing. What you may not know is that Jimmy Carter was the president when we launched our first Voyager spacecraft on July 29th, 1977. And that spacecraft contained a golden record in it that had the sounds of Earth on it. And there was also a message that was written by President Carter to the universe. And I want to share that message with you now. This Voyager spacecraft was constructed by the United States of America. We are a community of 240 million human beings among the more than 4 billion who inhabit planet Earth. We human beings are still divided into nation states, but these states are rapidly becoming a single global civilization. We cast this message into the cosmos. It's likely to survive 1 billion years into our future, when our civilization is profoundly altered and the surface of the Earth may be vastly changed. Of the 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, some, perhaps many, may have inhabited planets and spacefaring civilizations. If one such civilization intercepts Voyager and can understand these recorded contents, here is our message. This is a present from a small, distant world, a token of our sounds, our science, our images, our music, our thoughts, and our feelings. We are attempting to survive our time so that we may live into yours. We hope someday, having solved the problems we face, to join a community of galactic civilizations. This record represents our hope and our determination and our goodwill in a vast and awesome universe. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Markham. Next up, we've got approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Commissioner Lube, seconded by Commissioner Gingell. Any discussion? And the agenda will include the items that came through committee prior to today's board meeting. Make sure you refresh your things, your tablets. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Let the record reflect that the agenda has been approved unanimously. Next up is a public hearing for the Exchange Project Transformational Brownfield Plan and the minutes. Wow, I've already moved on to item 8. Need a motion to approve the minutes from our October 10th meeting. Moved by Commissioner Joliet, seconded by Commissioner Powell. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Let the record reflect that the minutes were approved unanimously. Now we're going to move to the public hearing. This is for the Exchange Project Transformational Brownfield Plan in the City of Pontiac. And I'm going to open that public hearing at 6:07 p.m. If there's anyone here to speak on that item, please raise your hand. Welcome. If you want to come to the microphone here at the, middle of the auditorium, if you could just share your name and community of residence, and you got 3 minutes to address the board.
Okay, good evening. Lucy Payne, 1095 Fairway Drive, Pontiac, Michigan. I was hoping that before you started discussing the Brownfield that you would give some kind of information and background on, I tried looking on the internet and I couldn't find anything, so I would like to know about the Brownfield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna break protocol a little bit. The item it's on the consent agenda. It's gone through the TIF, the Brownfield TIF committee, and it's gone through economic development and infrastructure, and I believe it's passed unanimously, and all the supporting documentation should be on there. So I'm just gonna ask, because I know staff is listening.
Staff to help her.
Yeah, can you just, can you print out the materials for item 11A for our resident here? And then we'll bring it to you. Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing, and that will bring us to presentations. Is Dana here yet? No, I haven't. Oh, you're going to do the presentation. Okay, well, we are very fortunate that we get regular updates from the Oakland Community Health Network, our mental health authority for Oakland County, and we want to welcome. You have the presentation, everything. Oh, look at that. We're going to just roll right into it. So thank you very much for being with us.
But she is not Dana. Dana sends her regrets. So we say there are days where we definitely have to divide and conquer. So our chief operating officer is on the west side of the state. Dana got called into a PHP meeting earlier today. And then we hold a quarterly regional meeting with Wayne County and Macomb. We talk in these meetings, we discuss what's unique in our communities, but being in this Tri-County region, 60% of the people who receive public behavioral health services in Michigan live in our Tri-County area. So we meet quarterly to discuss what are our common challenges that we need to discuss and then to share that unique information. I believe this summer when she gave her update, she said we would be back with the presentation of our annual plan. It was just approved by our board in September. I have printed copies, really nice ones for everybody, but we'll send the electronic version as well. I will say one of the first things I learned in my career with the public mental health system was from the people we serve. I spend a lot of time with individuals we support, and they would frequently say to us, nothing about us without us. Don't make decisions without our input. We are in the third year of our 3-year strategic plan. So this is our final year. We do a needs assessment every 3 years, a global, and then we build a 3-year plan from that. Then each year we do an annual survey and then build that year's plan within the 3-year plan. We send out about 10,000 emails, but I think the greatest input we get is from the face-to-face interviews we do with the people we serve. So we will send about 10 of our admin staff from chief level. At all levels, we go to clubhouses, we go to drop-in centers, we go into treatment centers. We talk about the survey, but then we sit with people and we have conversation. What are the issues that are of a priority to you? Early in, say, 2010, 2011, when we would do this survey, the people who were responding were not reflected by the people we serve. So the people we serve were always the smallest percentage of those giving input. So we made it a priority back then, going back to the Nothing About Us Without Us, to include and ensure that we really were hearing from the people we serve. That included sending surveys to homes, specialized residential settings, with postage for return, so we could hear from our DSPs as well. This year, we were really excited. It's been ticking up every year. About 2 years ago, for the first time since we did the survey, the number one group that we heard from was the people that we serve. So we were very excited about that. And then this year was the highest ever. So 47% of the people who completed the survey were individuals who are actually being impacted by supports of the public mental health system. We also use data from the county, so the ECHO results, when we compare that. So we're looking at those survey results that are very specific to the public mental health system, but then how do those results mesh in with the ECHO results? There are a number of priorities people list. We choose the top 5 to go over with our board. So these were the areas that people identified what they want us to prioritize up in the upcoming year. So mental health treatment was the highest, crisis intervention, which those two obviously are connected. Mental and physical health care coordination, so that's the integration of physical and mental health. Supports for caregivers, that is direct support wage. This year, there was a significant advocacy push to have payments increased for our DSPs. The budget only included 20 cents. One thing, though, that we in Oakland County say we're really proud of is our DSPs received the highest rate in compensation. So the state averages, I think, $14.28. We're about 16 and something. The initially started with some ARPA funding, and then we're looking at ways to sustain that. And then transportation is always and has always been a conversation among the people we serve. It was one of the reasons when the vote was going for the millage vote for transportation that we supported that effort and attended events on behalf of the county's request. One of the things we see when we see transportation on this side, high priority, usually that's referencing people who want to be engaged in the community. So that's a little different than the traditional service models. What will Medicaid cover? What won't Medicaid cover? It's really more about community engagement. The other part where they're really happy is transportations to doctors and therapy, and usually that's because it's a Medicaid covered service, so we have more influence in that area. High level, these are the priorities. There's more detailed information in the handouts that I'm going to give you, but the advocacy partnerships, community administration of managed care, it actually says in our contract with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, we are responsible for managing the delivery of the care. Access to non-emergent, urgent, and crisis services. So that might include the new walk-in center that we have opened in partnership, a soft launch with the Health Division and with Honor. We're also looking at some other areas to partner with the Health Division. And then again, integrated behavioral health care, improved systems of care for children. That's really identified in our youth and family care connection, which is just down the street now. That was where we renovated part of the building to be more youth and family friendly, and it helped ease some of the burden on the hospitals. Hospitals didn't usually have places to send children if they were in a behavioral health crisis. If they could move them to that service, then treatment could start right away, which was different than what they were able to do in the emergency department. So that was a really important partnership between the hospitals, law enforcement, and our agency. When we talk with people we serve about advocacy, we often bring to their attention who in our community is an advocate or a champion on their behalf. So we talk about the county exec office, we talk about the health division, we talk about law enforcement, Oakland schools, and really the strength and improvements, those partnerships have helped us in expanding the array of services that are very unique in our county. So for example, after the Oxford incident, one of the things we realized right away is we were developed to deliver public behavioral health services. But in a crisis, when you have to pull everybody in, the day-to-day needs of individuals don't change. And so managing how do you support a community, but you still have to be committed to your support for the individuals we serve. We ended up creating within our organization, it's a CISM, so it's a crisis intervention, stress management. So we have 28 or so admins in our building that if there is a community crisis, our admin staff can go to the site, they can offer the crisis services, but our clinical staff as part of our network can continue with their day-to-day work. So those are just some of the examples of what those partnerships really look like. We have been working diligently to streamline our managed care operations. That includes standardizing rates. One of the things during the PHE that we noticed, and as we were moving toward different service models, is that there was a rate variation among our providers. So we really looked at that as promoting equity within our service network. We also have implemented some new systems to improve budget monitoring, claims, and reporting to ensure that we're being fiscally responsible and good fiduciaries of our Medicaid dollars. The restoration of our ISF, that is the savings account for the public mental health system. There are 10 PHPs. Every PHP has an ISF. There was a point where Oakland County used to get about $40 million in general fund, and we would keep those in our savings for a crisis and an emergency. The general fund dollars went down from 40 million to 10 million, and then there was a rate reduction. So those ISF dollars were really crucial in helping us transition during the times where our rates were being cut by the state, the redistribution of rates across the state, and then also adjusting to a $30 million rate increase or a rate decrease. And then the conflict-free case management, we're still working with that. There are some things that just are mandated by the state. The state is looking from the federal level as to providers or institutions, entities where you cannot assess an individual's care needs and then refer them to yourself. So they're really looking at doing conflict-free case management, and that I have diagnosed or I've assessed somebody with this diagnosis, but I'm going to give them choice. I'm not going to tell them you have to go here for services. There are a lot of complications that are very unique to Michigan because of our structure system. So the state is trying to comply with the federal level. We're all trying to help them comply, but at the same time be true to some of the service models that we have in place that we know are very beneficial to the community. Again, I mentioned the Pontiac Walk-In Center. There are some other areas which we are trying to expand the access points in our community. The Resource and Crisis Center is a phenomenal resource that we've had for many years now that other counties are just now starting to get. But what we're looking at more is how do we have access points in the community so that the community doesn't always have to come to us. Transportation is a barrier for some people, but we want people to be able to go close to home and not have to travel, say, from the far west side of the state to Pontiac. There might be some challenges for them. So this really is about expanding those access points to make it easier for people to get help when they need it and that it's closer to their home. The community violence intervention is very exciting, really. I want to say in the early PHE, we received a call from Senator Baer that said, if we give you $250,000 in grant money, which wasn't a lot, can you build a crisis intervention plan? And we said, well, we'll try, and we did. We ended up presenting it around the state, and it became a model for the state to do an even larger grant, a $10 million contribution in the state for PHPs and other organizations. Of that $10 million, $1 million of that was awarded to Oakland County, but it started with that initial, if you guys can give us just a rough draft of what this might look like, then we'll try to find ways to implement it across the state at a larger scale. So launching the clinical services, we already have CCBHCs in our community. So those are community behavioral health clinics. Easter Seals Mork is a CCBHC, and then CNS Healthcare is a CCBHC, and then I believe Judson Center just got awarded. So they're going to launch in January. We still have some work to do in that area, mostly because we contract all of our services out. And so the CCBHC's very specific and those services that allow you for that certification. Areas that we will be looking at to get that accreditation is women's specialty services, which is specific to mothers with children who have substance use disorders, and then the medication-assisted treatment in our judicial system. Transportation contracts. We have completed the transition of our transportation contracts. This was about a 12-month process. We had about 20-something transportation providers. During this transition process, what we realized was we had some transportation providers who were being paid at a very high scale from our providers, and we had others who were being paid significantly less, $20 to $25 less for the same services. We brought together a work group. Change is never easy, so we did hear about the transition. I had a lot of conversations with our providers at the time that advocacy is very important, but you should advocate with fact and not fear, because the people we serve have really tough lives. So use data, use strong information, but promoting fear can be really a challenge in us in responding. We had 2,300 people at the time who needed to be transitioned. All 2,300 were transitioned on launch day, except for, I think, 9. 3 of those individuals were new to the system. Transportation is going to ebb and flow always as people come into a system for supports. If transportation is in need, and depending on the level of that care, it is a little complex. The remaining people were still, I think there are 2 or 3. They do have a very unique set of needs that is different for a family, and it's very simple as I need someone to ride with. He or she doesn't want to wear a coat, or he or she doesn't want to wear shoes. So you really have to look for the appropriate drivers to assist. The other challenge that continues with transportation and with our system entirely is job and workforce. So really identifying drivers. We have enough vehicles in our county, but we need enough drivers to assist with that. Staffing and retention, this is in part is primarily addresses for OCHN. So we do a number of surveys within our organization to ensure that we have the right people and quality people. I was just in a meeting last week, and I was listening to someone talk about what they said is the stigma of people who work for public mental health. That if you're really a quality employee, you're going to work for private institution because you're going to make more money. And I thought about the stigma. I said, so not only is it a pay that we have to address, but also address the stigma that might be associated with working in a public mental health system. So we do a lot of positive work environment within our organization. We have a group that's led by our staff, and they talk about engagement, involvement. When we do our surveys, really the top response we always get is people feel great pride in their work, in the impact that they do in the community. And I often say, if there is something that happens in this community, you make one call to our team and you will have 40 people at your doorstep saying, I can go and help, what do you need? I just had that again this morning. There was a lockdown at the high school, and within 5 minutes, I had every clinician who knows how to lead, who knows how to do SISM. They were on my phone before I could even call them, saying, I'm going to call Oakland Schools. Great. I'm going to call the sheriff. I'm going to see what they need. Great. I'm going to call Common Ground and see if the Legacy Center, if the Resiliency Center needs anything. And then I had someone call me, not on my mind. I'm going to call the first responders who were there that day, because this call is triggering. And then I had someone else call me and say, I'm going to call everybody in our department and in our building who spent 3 months in that community, because this will be triggering for them too. So they think very broad in the impact of what they can do, and they move very fast, sometimes to the point where I have to say, not you, you've been here, here, and here. I need you to practice self-care as well. So these are the types of things and work we're doing, really focusing too on how do you build a career pathway in public behavioral health. We have some strong partnerships with OU. We have some strong partnerships with Wayne State University. We like to share with people, especially for DSPs, the number of people in our organization, including our CEO, who started their career as a direct support specialist and then moved their way and elevated their way to a leadership. And you can see a light bulb go on for people that in this moment you're providing really essential critical care for people in need, but you'll have the ability to grow and then influence policy and expansion later in the future if you find value in this work. I'm going to end there. See if you have any questions for me. I will say this, I was a little alarmed. I walked in, I was at the RCC all afternoon, and I walked in, the security, that nice gentleman was waiting for me. I said, I've never been escorted in this building. Am I late? What did I do? So, but I remembered last time we were here, totally unintentionally, Dana, myself, and Trish, we all wore red. We didn't even plan it, but there was a sea of red in here. I think we blended in. We sat in our normal seats and nobody saw us.
Well, the organizers of that are also in the room, so.
So we caught ourselves off guard. I said, I didn't plan this, guys, but here we are. So
Right.
Any questions that you have for me?
Well, thank you, Christine. Thank you for the incredible update. We value the partnership. Do commissioners have any questions for Christine or OCHN in general? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. And additionally, while I know there's extra costs with doing surveys, mailing, and having prepaid postage, it obviously...
Commissioner, can you make sure that the mic, just so that people could be heard?
It obviously made a significant difference in the participation, so
Yeah.
thank you for going that extra mile and making sure that people are able to respond. My question is, as I noticed on the behavioral health, or I'm sorry, the service priorities slide, given behavioral health treatment wasn't identified as a service priority and satisfaction, are we seeing a decrease in the need?
I'm going to go back. Okay, what were you looking for?
So this page, right? So
Yeah.
I don't see anything specific to behavioral health. And my question is more specifically to, are we seeing a decrease in the need for applied behavior analysis treatment?
For ABA,
Yes.
for an ABA specific for autism, and the answer to that is no. What's unique about ABA is that parents may weigh, and we talk a lot about this, about choice. So we will have families who wait specifically for a specific provider. Autism is not decreased in youth and behavioral. We do have a harder time getting families and parents to respond. We will tend to hear from our older parents who were around earlier in the 70s and 80s and really had to advocate for the rights of their children. Our younger families really have, I think, become accustomed to some of the service arrays that are available in this community. So there's not a sense of fear of what I could lose. They've always had it, where our older families really are always trying to engage them in the conversation. But ABA is not decreasing. It's just really families have choice on which provider and whom they want to go get help.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, I know that Christine, you and Dana and the entire team is always available. And we look forward to, again, like I said earlier, maintaining the partnership with OCHN.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's the only presentation we have this evening. We're going to move to communications, and I will call on the clerk to read what communications we have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We just have one this evening, dated October 24th, 2024, to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. Please accept this letter as notification that I have exercised the authority granted to the chair of the board to approve grant applications in excess of $50,000 for the purposes of meeting a submission deadline. Due to the grantor deadlines and the board's grant submission process and calendar, it is not possible to submit the application for full board consideration in accordance with our normal procedures. I have authorized the submission of the following grant application. The grant name is for the fiscal year 2024 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance, JAG, grant program for the Sheriff's Office and Community Corrections in the amount of $70,469, and the grant application deadline was October 22nd, 2024. Sincerely, David T. Woodward, Chair, Oakland County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to receive and file the communications moved by Weipert, seconded by Rahman? Any discussion? All in favor of receiving the communication say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that the communications have been received unanimously. So we'll move us to the first public comment of tonight's meeting. This is an opportunity for any member to speak on any agenda item that on the consent or regular agenda. Is there anybody who would like to speak on the first public comment? Seeing none, I will close that public comment, and it will move us to reports of standing committees. And the first item up is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to move the consent agenda? Moved by Commissioner Gingell, seconded by Commissioner Lubes. Any discussion on the consent agenda, which is the majority of the items of tonight's meeting? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please prompt the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 yeas, 0 nays.
The sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the consent agenda is adopted. This will move us up to the regular agenda, and I will call on the Chair of the Economic Development and Infrastructure Committee, Yolanda Smith-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is one item today on the report from the Economic Development Infrastructure Committee, and that is, Mr. Chair, I move Resolution 2024-4552, which is the creation of one part-time, I'm sorry, I'm just going to do the acronym, PTNE Sustainability Specialist position. That is my motion.
Moved by Commissioner Smith-Charles, seconded by Commissioner Rahman. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Madam Clerk, please prompt the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 13 yeas, 4 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. Commissioner Smith-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes the report of EDI Committee. Thank you.
Okay, great. We'll move on to Public Health and Safety, and I'll call on the Chair, Commissioner Penny Lubes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are 3 items under the Public Health and Safety Committee. All 3 are grant acceptances. The first is a grant acceptance from the State Court Administrative Office for the fiscal year 2025 Drug Court Program.
Do you want to move these individually or all together?
We could move them all together. They're all grant acceptances. The second item is the 2025 DWI Sobriety Court Program, and the last is the fiscal year 2025 Adult Mental Health Court Program.
And these are all grants to scale. So moved by Commissioner Lube, seconded by Commissioner Hoffman. And we're going to move items A, B, and C under Public Health and Safety to submit these grants and bring these dollars to our local court. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please prompt the vote.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 yeas, 0 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative. The resolution of the grant requests have been approved unanimously. Commissioner Lubes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's no further action from the Public Health and Safety Committee tonight.
Okay, and I don't believe that there's any other committees that have regular agenda business that wasn't taken up under the consent agenda. They'll move to new and miscellaneous business where there is none, and that will move us next to announcements. Any announcements from commissioners? Commissioner Brenda Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a fun one today, and Commissioner Lubes and I have not talked about this, but my partner turned 32 this week, and he's Korean American, and I just want to make sure that everyone knows that on the New York Times' 2024 America's Best Restaurants list, Michigan has exactly 1 restaurant on the list, and it's in Clawson, Michigan, Nori Chicken, and it was fantastic. So if anyone wants some really good Korean chicken, go to Clawson. It was a great time.
It's a dinner restaurant, so they open at 5.
All right, Commissioner Lubes is buying. Um, Any other announcements? Seeing none, this will move us to our second public comment. This is the opportunity for any members of the public to comment on any item on or off the agenda. I know a number of people have signed up, so we'll start here. And if there's other people who wish to speak, we can do so after. But I'll start with Nabeel Sarah. And just ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Introduce yourself, community of residents, and the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you. Nabeel Sater, Bloomfield Hills, been a resident of Oakland County for 45 years. Today I'm reading a statement on behalf of Ilana Alpert, a rabbi from Congregation Tehillah in Ferndale. She could not be here, but she wanted me to read this message to you. Dear Oakland County Board of Commissioners, I'm honored to serve as a rabbi of Congregation Tehillah, a progressive justice-pursuing, queer-loving, intergenerational reconstructionist Jewish community based in Ferndale. Our members live primarily in Oakland County. Last October, we signed onto the following letter to Congress and President Biden. Quote, we are grieving the horrific, violent, and terrifying attacks by Hamas on Israeli civilians. A grief of this magnitude can unleash a powerful drive to revenge. Our Jewish values ask us to open our hearts and reach for our shared humanity. Jewish tradition insists that every single human being is sacred with inherent dignity and worth. We ask that you not weaponize our grief to support the killing of Palestinian civilians. More than 2 million people in Gaza have been cut off from food, water, gas, and electricity. Israel has told 1 million Gaza civilians they have 24 hours to leave, but they have nowhere to go and no way to get there. Further, harm to Palestinian civilians will not bring back the dead, nor will it make Israel safer. We urge our government to use its influence to de-escalate and interrupt the cycle of violence, negotiate the safe return of hostages, and protect the lives of all Israelis and Palestinian civilians. Back then, it was considered to be a bold statement. I was very proud of our congregation, and since then, of course, our conviction has grown stronger. We are doing whatever we can to stop the carnage and to interrupt the idea that giving Israel a blank check is in the interest of Jewish communities. Speaking out for ceasefire is a religious imperative. The only path to true and lasting safety for both Israelis and Palestinians is not through violence and war. We need engagement by the international community toward a just and lasting peace in this land, which is holy to so many. I speak out for ceasefire, not in spite of October 7th, but because of it. One of my best friends lives in Ashkelon, very close to Gaza with her 2 beautiful children. The only thing that will keep them safe is just peace, and we cannot bomb our way there. The only people benefiting from continued war are the weapon manufacturers, that's it. But don't imagine that the question you are being asked is whether a ceasefire is necessary or just, but rather what role does our country commission play in responding to crisis across the world? So clearly outside of our jurisdiction, and to that concern I'm sympathetic. The global versus local distinction is mythical in so many ways, and yet a line must be drawn somewhere in order to make governance manageable. Sure, DC makes more sense, and I will continue to direct my energy there, but they're not listening. And at this point, I'm willing to pull any lever of power if there is even a chance that lever, combined with 1,000 other tiny levers, will save the life of one child and increase the possibility for long-term peace. I'm sorry, she had more, but
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. David Finkel?
Good evening. There really are no longer words to describe what is being done to the population and the society in Gaza. Northern Gaza is being systematically depopulated, deprived of entry of food, of humanitarian assistance. Medical facilities are being systematically targeted. Journalists, Palestinian journalists are being killed in targeted assassinations. And it has become clear from the statements of Israeli generals themselves, though it's not quite stated Israeli policy, that the entire northern half of Gaza is to be depopulated. Now, because the United States government takes no action to prevent this, aside from meaningless verbal bleats, okay, the destruction is now spread to Lebanon. There is systematic destruction of civilian, financial, and medical infrastructure in Lebanon under the guise of targeting Hezbollah. In fact, more than 1 million Lebanese civilians have now been displaced, mostly from southern Lebanon, but also from the suburbs of Beirut. And on top of that, it is clear that the Biden administration is coordinating with Israel in a plan for an attack on Iran, the dimensions of which we don't know. There is a resolution in the United States Senate introduced by Senator Bernie Sanders and several others calling for a refusal, calling for blocking, a resolution of disapproval of the new military transfer of U.S. weapons to Israel. Action by local community boards like this one, calling for a ceasefire, can put some backbone into many U.S. senators and congresspeople who know that this must be done, but who lack the courage and the spine to do it. Now's the time. Every day lost means hundreds and indeed thousands of more civilians being killed, and the complete and total annihilation of an entire society in Gaza. And it is spreading. It is spreading to Lebanon. It has already spread to the West Bank. If you don't act now, it's going to be too late.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Coley, followed by Mrs. Maloney.
Thank you. Hello and good evening. My name is Amrit Kohli. I am Oakland County. I'm also a small business owner, a musician, and the Democratic candidate for Oakland County Sheriff. I hope I can earn your vote. But maybe you should be more worried about whether you can earn mine. How can I vote for you, Mr. Woodward, when you have demonstrated a complete lack of compassion for the genocide that is occurring on your watch in Palestine? You have refused to put a resolution on the floor for a vote, even though you know we have the votes for it. You are a blockade between peace and war in this county. And you, Mrs. Gershenson, have equally done nothing with your power on the commission to bring about a meaningful resolution that would put Oakland County on the right side of history. Meeting after meeting, we have come here and pleaded with you for such a simple act, an act that denounces genocide, and you have refused to even take it up as a matter for discussion on the agenda. Yet when the Ukraine was attacked by Russia, you were swift in passing an anti-genocide resolution. What is the difference between the Ukraine and Palestine? What makes one worthy of your attention and the other unworthy? If Palestinians were white, the situation in Gaza would look very different, don't you think? What would change if Palestinians were white? Sit with that question for a moment, and then reflect back on why you refuse to take up this resolution. We are demanding you take action against all genocides equally and without consideration for ethnicity, gender, skin color, nationality, creed, culture, or sexuality. All forms of genocide are wrong. This, in fact, is not negotiable. This is simply a fact, an ethical fact. The genocidal maniac at the helm of this travesty, Benjamin Netanyahu, cannot be allowed to control the military of Israel. He has shown time and time again that his commitment is to himself and not to the people of Israel, and certainly with no regard for the people of Palestine. He sounds a lot like our Donald Trump, doesn't he? There is a dire need for you to take up the resolution and pass it today. The people of Gaza and Palestine need your help. To continue to turn your back on them is beyond inhumane. Does it not weigh on your conscience? So I ask again, when will Commissioners Woodward and Gershenson bring a ceasefire resolution to a vote?
Thank you. Mrs. Maloney, followed by Heather Burnham, and then Angela Burnham.
Hi, I'm so pleased to be here today, and I have a gift for my favorite, God, now I'm losing my mind, commissioner in charge. That would be David Woodward. No, what is your serious title?
Well, my daughter's behind you. You can answer.
Okay. But anyway.
Dave will do.
But I would like to say, first of all, that invocation by Miss Markham was absolutely beautiful about working together. And in that regard, this very Monday, I was very happy to be invited to a test of the election equipment. It's called an accuracy test, and it was held by the Honorable Clerk, Miss Lisa Brown, who is pretty in pink today. And I also had delivered her gift too earlier today. But what this book is, it's, and let me go back to the test. All of our questions were answered. There's very high-speed equipment, and everybody in Oakland County can be absolutely assured of the accuracy of those voting of the absentee ballots. So I can give my opinion there. Now, what I would like to say is now is available Michigan election law summary and facts. So if somebody comes up to you and asks, hey, how are those UOCAVA votes counted? You will be able to look into your handy-dandy guide and answer that question. It also talks about before the polls open, while the polls are open, and after they close. So it really gives you something you can stick right in your notebook and have on hand if you're doing election work, which I'm sure you are all signed up to do election work. Maybe you can't do election work. Okay, ineligible. Not me, though. I'm eligible, and I'm doing some election work. So anyway, I know I am not permitted to go across this barrier because Oakland County Sheriff would be tackling me. But anyway, and then to just end real quickly, I saw that Mark Cuban trying to imitate your look, David Woodward. I saw him at a rally, and he comes down, and I said, my God, is that David Woodward at the rally? No,
he can imitate my bank account.
The billionaire, yes. Thank you.
All right. I want to imitate his bank account. That's right. Thank you very much. All right. Next up, Heather Burnham, followed by Angela Burnham.
Good evening. My name is Heather Burnham. I'm from Waterford. Previously, I've lived in Clarkston, so I've been a resident of Oakland County my entire life. I'm going to finish Rabbi Alana's statement, and then I will talk myself. These days, I wonder if our spiritual work is the recognition of how little power we have, how incredibly small we are in the face of the military-industrial complex, of anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and anti-Arab bigotry. But the principled activists behind this resolution have convinced me that it is our moral obligation to try. And maybe, if Oakland County joins Detroit, Dearborn, Hamtramck, Dearborn Heights, Canton, Ypsilanti, Kalamazoo County, and Wayne County in calling for a ceasefire, then Novi, Port Huron, Troy, Warren, and Sterling Heights will join. And then, maybe, just maybe, we will get the attention of those in power in Washington. And we will have done our part to interrupt the war machine, to save lives, and to pursue justice. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said, in a free society, some are guilty, but all are responsible. You, my friends, carry the great burden of public service. You may be blessed with strength and courage. Thank you for all you do for the residents of Oakland County and the world. May peace come soon. May we help make it so. And that's from Rabbi Alana, and I would be happy to give that to you or to pass that up. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. I'll hand that over. I know I've said this before. I love Oakland County. I love teaching here. I love volunteering here. I've gone to pretty much every part of Oakland County. I participate in all of the Pride events. And I want Oakland County to be a safe place. I want it to be a place that stands for justice, My grandparents, as I've said before, and I'm sure you're getting sick of hearing from me, were survivors of the Holocaust. They suffered greatly in Berlin. You know, there's a lot of pictures of of children who never got to, be teenagers, who never got to be adults. And that's happening right now. So I'm asking you to please pass a ceasefire resolution, or please just bring it to a vote and make your choice democratically. That's what we are, right? So that's what I'm asking you today, and I'll keep asking. I'm grateful for all you do, and I would be far more grateful and so immensely proud of my county if we could make this happen. I know we can't fly across the sea and save lives like Superman, but we can make a stand. We have that power, and you especially have that power. Thank you for what you do. Please bring a ceasefire resolution to a vote.
Thank you very much. Angela, and then followed by Kristen Beasley.
Hello. My name is Angela Burnham. I'm from Waterford, and I am Oakland County. Hello again. I stand before you once more to ask for you to bring a ceasefire resolution to a vote. You have heard us over and over again. You have heard so many people from so many backgrounds. You've heard people from Lebanon, Palestine, New York, and many American citizens. You've heard Jewish people who have survived the Holocaust and their descendants. You've heard Christians, Catholics, atheists, Buddhists, and so forth. You've heard mothers, fathers, grandparents. You've heard the citizens of Oakland County speak about this over and over again, yet you do not listen. You've heard the cries and pleas of those who have lost their family members. You've heard teachers, therapists, doctors, and journalists, yet you do not listen. You see and hear the stories of these people, yet you do not listen. I'm going to stand here over and over and over again because I know what's right. I know that people are suffering, the earth is dying, and with our billions of dollars in taxes that are going to the root cause of these atrocities, I know that we need to put this to a stop. And I ask, when will Commissioners Woodward and Gershenson bring a ceasefire resolution to a vote? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kristen Beasley, followed by, is it Liz Cereso?
Hi, I'm Kristen Beasley. I am a resident of West Bloomfield. My mom asked me why the students protesting the genocide on college campuses didn't get out of the way for the other folks who were trying to get to class. And I laughed and I said, should they protest from their living rooms? And she said, well, I mean, they're in the way. And my mom still believes in the system. She actually believes that you could come to your local county board and say, here's this thing, and a group of folks could come month after month and that someone would listen to her. And those systems largely worked for my mom. So probably arguably largely worked for me. But it doesn't work for everyone. And, it's not working to put an end to this genocide. So instead we build communities and we keep coming and we keep putting pressure and we keep asking. And we do that because we want to go on the record to state our intention that Oakland County at least put it up for a vote. We've attempted to follow the system at play. I'm more skeptical than some of my fellow community members here that the system of government will save us, but here we are asking time and time again. So as I speak, as everyone speaks, I study your faces. I think, what are you thinking? Are you letting this in? What happens when you go home? And I asked a few people on the way out of the last meeting, there's really no other way to get it on the agenda, only through the chair and co-chair who clearly have made it known they're not going to put it on the agenda. I was told, nope, no way, so sorry. We definitely understand. We hear you. We support this. But I was so surprised to see 20-second Google search. There is a way to get it on the agenda. There is a way to get it on the agenda. It would take someone here standing up and saying, this is a reasonable request from my constituents. This is a reasonable, this is a process that they're asking us. But it would take that person to stand up and say, I am calling for a ceasefire. I am going to face my colleagues, my coworkers. I may lose political backing. I may lose my election, but I am calling for a ceasefire. And when you do that, you know what happens. We're all pariahs. Once you go against the grain, it's not easy, and it's certainly something we've elected to do because it's important, but we are asking you to allow the democratic process to unfold. We are asking from the folks who are educating themselves every day on what is going on in Palestine and in Lebanon, and we are saying, get it on the agenda for a vote. If it doesn't pass, then it doesn't pass. But it is in your power, and you're fooling yourself to believe that by abstaining from putting it on the agenda, that you're somehow neutral. This is a vote for genocide.
Thank you very much. Liz? Did I say that correctly? Soriso?
Cereso.
Cereso.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for
Pleasure.
trying. I appreciate it. Hi, my name's Liz Cereso. I'm a resident of West Bloomfield. This is my first time here to speak in support of putting a resolution for a ceasefire on the agenda. I'm a proud member of the LGBTQ community. I've been told repeatedly that because of my support for Palestine and Palestinian rights, that I should go visit Gaza and see what happens to me there. To that, I always say, just because somebody might hate me and want to kill me doesn't mean that I wish annihilation upon them. The other thing that I get pushback for a lot is I'm not Jewish. And people ask, why do I care? I'm not Jewish, but I'm married to a Jewish man who actually is a Zionist. And you might wonder, how do we get along? What's that marriage like? It's difficult, very difficult. But we have a son who is Jewish, and I believe it is right for me to come here and to put on the record that I stand against this genocide, and I want to be an example for my son and for my family. And as for my spouse and I, we connect based on our shared humanity and our shared values of honoring people as human beings and giving them the right to be who they are, to exist, to have all their needs met. Because at this point, change won't come unless people's needs are met, unless there is security, unless there are hospitals, unless there are schools, unless there's food and water. This violence has gone on too long, and I implore you to do this small act that will bring us in solidarity with so many other counties, that it will send a message. I truly do believe that, especially coming from Oakland County. And I just implore you, again, to take this seriously and put it on the agenda for a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the people that I had sign up. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak during public comment? If you could just come, make your way to the mic. And if you can... Again, if you can just share your name and community residence for the record. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Elizabeth Snyder, a resident of Birmingham. And I come here tonight, I'm in anguish over what is happening to the Palestinian people. I'm also angry at my government and at you, that you can't make that small step to support a ceasefire. It's become clear to me in the last week or so, since Sinwar was killed, and there has been no movement toward a ceasefire and exchange of hostages, become clear that Netanyahu has no intention of ending the bombing and destruction of Palestine. If Donald Trump should be elected, he has publicly said, I will tell Netanyahu to finish the job. I'm asking you to take this group of people that are here seriously. We represent a lot of members of our communities. I'm a Christian, I'm a member of a church, and the feeling there is anguish, just like me. So please take action. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone raise, you'll be after. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Mary Malik, and I'm a resident of Oakland County. I'm here today to speak about the genocide taking place in the most holiest of lands, Palestine. It is hard to believe that it has been over a year that we have been watching this and have been unable to stop the brutal killing of innocent people. There have been more than 42,000 people killed, and we know that majority of them are women and children. To put that in context, that is close to half of the population of Troy, where I live. Also, close to 2 million Palestinians have been displaced from their homes, majority of which are destroyed. Again, to put that in context, that is more than the number of people that live in the Oakland County. I want to quote Amanda Gorman, who is an American poet. She says, "It takes a monster to kill children, but to watch monsters kill children again and again and do nothing is not insanity, it's inhumanity." I urge you to introduce a resolution to call for a permanent ceasefire and for the US government to follow its own laws when supplying military aid to foreign countries. As a Muslim, I believe we will be held accountable for our actions on this earth. I hope we have a good answer when God asks us what we did when his creation was being murdered and was dying of hunger while we enjoyed life in our comfortable homes. I pray that our hearts soften towards the suffering of other humans, and together we stand up for justice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I begin in the name of God, who is the most merciful, the most gracious. I'm Amina Rather, an Oakland resident for the last 33 years. I'm here to express an urgent need to cease fire in Gaza. As a mother, as a grandmother, as a human, I plead for American political system to stop the war in Gaza. When I look at my 2-year-old grandkids, I feel how blessed I am that I'm living in peace and security. But my heart bleeds and cries when I see the children of Palestine being ruthlessly killed, murdered, amputated, and being starved to death. I ask myself, how can we Americans sleep at night when our tax dollars are being used to kill innocent souls purposely so they can never raise their voices to live in peace in their homeland? I feel ashamed as an American citizen to vote for Kamala or Trump, or for that matter, any politician who is encouraging the killing of innocent souls who have every right to live in peace and security. I would rather vote for Jill Stein, the Green Party, or any candidate who openly expresses concern for the Palestinians and is ready to do something about it to bring change and peace in that region where the innocent people are being slaughtered to no end. We want to bring an end to this apartheid. If America is a true democracy and stands for justice, it should end war in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Ferris Alamy, resident of Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. I am Michigan. For 21 years, we moved here with my wife, coming to Michigan while everybody else was leaving Michigan at the time. And I choose to be in Michigan because of what Michigan stands for. Global place, welcoming place, and a home place for a lot of people. And you might not know the details of my story, whether you see the images on the screen from what's happening in Gaza or not, or now Lebanon, and probably soon will be Syria, Iraq, and Iran. I lived that all my life, up till I moved to the US. I grew up having to take a visa every single summer to go visit my parents' house and my grandparents' house in Gaza, living in Kuwait. Every single year, we had to get a visa to visit home. Why? Because I understand what it is not to be represented. I carried a refugee document that no one acknowledged as a passport. I had no rights. I know what it means to have no voice. I know what it means to have no rights. I lived like that all the way till 2011. You don't have to tell me what needs to happen. And they're very kind. Most of the people who stood before me are very nice. And I hope you see that this is not about a religion or about a religious institution. Most of the people, many of the people are Jewish individuals. Many survived the biggest genocide of the Holocaust, which is the Holocaust. And I stand here before you, not to say cease fire, because I don't see fire from two places. There's one fire against civilians and one fire against soldiers. The fire against soldiers, unfortunately, that it happens, but that's what war is for, soldier to soldier, or rebels to soldiers, whatever you want to call it. But when it's soldiers to civilians, it's genocide. My uncle told me that he's been counting how many times they bombs every day to keep time flying. The number is 40, every single day in Gaza. I ask you to bring a resolution, to just make a voice to be heard, to say we don't stand for the inhumanity. Just because you don't see the images, it does not mean that it's not happening. And I encourage you to have the courage to stand against what other voices may suppressing you, not to stand for humanity. October 7th happened. I thought it was a Palestinian problem. By October 8th, I thought it was maybe a regional problem. By October 10th, it became a humanity problem. When you starve people to death and you bomb every house and you bomb every hospital and you bomb every school, that is a humanity problem. I encourage you to stand up for humanity and do the right thing. Bringing it to vote, it just means yes or no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to speak during public comment?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Qazi Afzal. I'm Oakland County. We are here yet again for another meeting. You heard all the speakers before me, and you'll hear after me. So during the inaction and silence of all of you here, there have been another tens of thousands of additional dead people, women, children, injured ones, permanently disabled ones, and crippled ones. This commission had no issue passing a resolution in support of Ukraine. When it came to the subject of supporting the Palestinians who have been massacred, violated, tortured, raped by the Israelis for over 75 years, you have shown complete ignorance and silence. Does the silence and inaction continue because they are not like most of you? Have the dirty influence of the Israeli lobby blinded you to the point that a few of you have been blocking this resolution from getting to a vote? And I mean, you know who they are, for about 6 months now. Bombing of schools and hospitals, killing of news reporters, UN staff, healthcare workers, pushing the Palestinians from one place to another, one camp to another, and then tell them to move again. And as they move, you bomb them. That's what Israelis do. It has become a game for them. The Zionist regime has intelligence on Hamas leaders, where they're hiding. They know where the Hezbollah commanders are, and they're able to kill them, but they're not able to find the the prisoners that Hamas is holding, supposedly. Do you believe that? That's because Netanyahu doesn't want to end the war. He wants that as a justification to continue the killing. These Zionists, they push and control the governing bodies, boards, commissions, who are supposed to serve the American people, protect the Constitution, and protect the civil liberties. Ongoing war in Gaza has exposed the Zionist control more than ever before. If you looked at the recording of the UN meeting, last one that just happened, which most of the country leaders attended, the auditorium became empty as Netanyahu started to talk shamelessly and spread the lies. Most of the leaders left. They wanted to take the bullshit. The Zionist regime thinks it is entitled to do whatever it wants to do. They may be winning the battle, that they have already lost the war. The whole world has seen who they are, and it's not going to go back. I believe that there's underlying support here from many commissioners. So if this resolution is put to a vote, it'll pass. That's why probably you're blocking it. Many of those here are aware of the lies repeated by many representatives and media, even though the journalists with a bit of spine left, they used to cover the Israeli crimes. A lot of them have turned around. They're not covering it anymore. And if you walk here, the corridors, I believe you take the same hallway. There are many covers, and there's somebody called, some kid from grade 10, IA. Her name is Annie Zhao. Read it, what it says.
All right, sir, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak during public comment? Going once, going to. I think these might be the last two. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Hi, my name is Fahad. I'm from Oakland County. Initially, I want to share Mike Flores' comment, then I will share my comment. Good evening. My name is Mike Flores from Hazel Park. I am from Oakland County. Apologies for not being able to attend in person. So I will keep my comments brief. I wanted to address and correct a statement made at the last meeting. During a public comment, the claim was that there is no apartheid in Israel because there are Arabic Palestinian legislators, judges, and doctors. The statement is misleading. If those Arabic Palestinian legislators, judges, or doctors must drive on segregated roads, use specific license plates, and are restricted to living in certain neighborhoods, that is very definition of segregation. Let's not forget that in the Jim Crow South and segregated North, there were few successful African Americans, but they were still subjected to apartheid-like rules. Similarly, in South America under apartheid, some black individuals might have succeeded in breaking the African glass ceiling, only to return home to the township in the shadow of Johannesburg's skyscrapers. I ask that we not distort the reality of many based on a handful of curated expectations. To end, I ask, when will Commissioner Woodward and Commissioner Grayson bring to this floor a ceasefire resolution? Then I want to share my comment. This is kind of personal to me. Now comes my statement. I want to share my personal story of mine. My dad had a heart attack like a few months ago. Thank God, he's doing well. He had an appointment. He followed up with this heart doctor. He ordered a test called Muga scan. It's a test that needs an isotope to do the test. I went to schedule the test. I'm being told it's not done because there is a global shortage. I followed up with the heart doctor. He tells me the global shortage is because of the wars. And then I'm also being told there is global shortage of IV fluids and much more. If we think anything happening in Middle East is not affecting us, I don't think that's right. It's affecting us directly or indirectly, starting, like this is my personal story, there is a shortage. I can't even do a test, which is needed for my dad. Now, I don't know how I'm going to follow up with that. So I'm just asking you guys, what are we doing? What are we doing to help us? What are we doing to help the community? To end, I ask, when will Commissioner Woodward, Commissioner Gunson bring this to floor, a ceasefire resolution? If we don't act now, I don't know when we will act. It might be too late. It starts with healthcare. It starts with infections. It starts with humanity. I don't know. We need to act something right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Carolina Melendez, and I am Oakland County. Do you remember last year's false accusations of Hamas beheading babies and burning babies in ovens? Do you remember how did you feel hearing such a despicable and barbaric act? But, and more importantly, do you remember how those news were debunked? Do you remember reading that those were lies? That never happened. That was war propaganda to justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. Probably you don't even remember hearing that those were lies because of the complicity of our main media in this genocide. What a shame. Of course, those lies were produced by the same government that is now beheading kids and burning them alive, even when they are hanging attached to an IV, unable to move or run away, probably with a mutilated body already. The same government who has sentenced an entire population to mass starvation and mass extermination, bombing one school after another, one refugee camp after another, where people have sought shelter for the 100th time. How can we be supporting this? Blinken is again in the Middle East, and even Israelis are protesting and demanding that the US stop the war. They are saying no more war, no more bloodshed, free our state, free our hostages. The other day, an Israeli peace activist who lost father and mother on October 7th spoke with the Pope asking for his support on a ceasefire resolution and to end this genocide. I'll bring this up because I don't think you're aware of how this is also dangerous for the Jewish people of Israel and for the Jewish people everywhere, who you claim to defend with bombs. And I bring this up because the agony of hundreds, thousands of little Palestinian children who have lost everything, in many cases even family members, all the family members, even their limbs, hasn't moved your hearts to act and to call for peace, to call for a ceasefire. Do you value life of innocent children, no matter what skin color, religion, ethnicity, or culture they belong to? I do, and all these people behind me do. We are committed to peace. Violence will bring always more violence. These atrocities are expanding. Look at Lebanon. The Israeli government is using the exact same lies to kill innocent people, to steal more land. Even the United Nations peace workers have been burned with white phosphorus. What are we doing? This is we doing. There is no more difference between Israel and the United States. We are bombing those children. Please call for a ceasefire resolution, for a vote. It's democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that speak during public comment? You're welcome.
Good evening. This is a testimony from a woman in northern Gaza. They took all the children from their mothers and placed them inside what resembled a ring or a pit. A tank came and circled around them repeatedly until they were covered with dirt and sand amidst the screams of the children and the wailings of the mothers. Then the soldiers came and began to toss the children towards the group of mothers. Whoever managed to catch a child had to carry them away quickly, and it wasn't necessary for the child to be theirs. Many mothers ended up carrying children who were not their own, forced to leave with someone else's child while leaving their own ones behind. Gaza has gone from the world's largest open-air prison to the world's largest concentration camp, and today into an industrial-scale slaughterhouse and extermination camp. For over a year, we are seeing graphic images, videos of the elderly, the young, the children, the women, the men, bombed, burned, raped, buried alive, slaughtered, and starved to death with our tax dollars. We are dealing with all the secondary trauma, and the constant stress is creating a toll on our mental and emotional well-being. Our mind and body are becoming overloaded from this ongoing traumatic news. What's even harder to comprehend is that the people who remind the world of their own horrific tragedies that the Nazis inflicted upon them have become the same terrorists that they warn everyone about. Israel has been exposed for its lies, hypocrisy, and ruthless tyranny that it has used to oppress Palestinians since the day that Israel was created. And yet the world remains silent. How much more blood must be spilled? What will it take for all of you to speak up, to say enough is enough and take action, to do your part in calling for this genocide to end? This isn't about Gaza anymore, but rather about the moral failure of us as humans when we see all this injustice. Commissioner Woodward, the ball is in your court. When will you call for this ceasefire resolution to come to a vote? Because I can guarantee you, you will have everyone saying, yes, this murder needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak during public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. And that will conclude this meeting. We will adjourn to November 21st, 2024, or call the chair. Good evening and be safe.